Let's do some examples of integrals. So, going to give you some examples of integration. The first one I'm going to do is a polynomial. So let's take the integral of x to the fourth minus x to the third plus 6. Polynomials are relatively simple. We've got to remember to integrate and just write the information, and we also, since this is an indeterminate or a indefinite integral, we have to add c. So this is added and subtracted. What we are allowed to do is we are allowed to do this equivalence of this. Let's take x to the fourth first. X to the fourth dx minus x to the third dx plus 6 dx. And you might not want to write all that stuff. You don't have to. But if they're added or subtracted, we can take them apart. So the integral of x to the fourth, using the reversed power rule, is x to the fourth, x to the fifth over 5. I'm messing this up. Let me fix it. X to the fifth over 5. Add 1, divide by the new power. Minus the integral of x to the third is x to the fourth over 4. Now something that's easy to mess up on, but really you'll get used to it, is 6. 6 is a constant, so constants are like this. 6x to the 0 equals 6. So this one's going to become 6x to the first, raise the power by 1, divide by the new power, and add c. So here is our final answer. Pretty slick. Let's try another example. Let's try taking the integral of the tangent x secant x dx, and let's take that from pi over 6 to pi over 4. So this is a definite integral. Now the tangent secant is the derivative of secant. So the answer to this is going to be secant x. Now I remember that. I didn't do anything to get it. I remembered it. So it's one of the basic formulas. I'm going to put pi over 6 here. I'm going to put pi over 4 here. Got to use the fundamental theorem of calculus. So I end up getting the secant of pi over 4 minus the secant of pi over 6. The secant of pi over 4 is the same thing as 1 over the cosine of pi over 4. And the secant of pi over 6 is 1 over the cosine of pi over 6. You might remember the values for secant, but if you don't, you might remember the values of cosine. So the cosine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. So this is 1 over the square root of 2 over 2, which is kind of complicated, so we'll fix it. And the cosine of pi over 6 is the square root of 3 over 2. So in order to fix these, I need to take the reciprocals of the denominators and multiply them out. 1 times 2 over the square root of 2, and then minus 1 times, the reciprocal of this is 2 over the square root of 3. This one actually simplifies a little because 2 is the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, so this just becomes square root of 2. This one doesn't simplify much. It's 2 over the square root of 3. That's actually a sufficient answer for calculus.